Old dogs, new tricks. Robert Bucknell and Nigel Fulton try out thermal and night vision fusion to stalk deer in Essex.
It's a real game changer now. Again.
Wild rabbit fever. Tom Davies takes just a few minutes on Dartmoor to fulfil his order book for rabbit meat.
There's no SD cards in your cameras.
Poacher's Paradise. I talked to South African wildlife experts who are worried that one of Prince Harry's groups is going to donate 2,000 rhinos more or less straight into the hands of organised crime.
What they're doing is they're repeating what I consider to be an already proven failed experiment.
Field Tester takes us to Shooting Sports UK in Staffordshire, as does Fieldsports Live this Friday. Competition is for a Jack Pyke fleece, gilet and jacket, kindly donated by Jack Pyke. David is on the new stump and James Marchington has the best hunting and shooting videos in hunting YouTube. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Essex farmer Robert Bucknell and his mate Nigel Fulton have got their hands on a couple of new thermal spotters from HIKMicro, and they're keen to see what they can do. Robert is best known for his fox shooting. As a farmer, he's also concerned with the damage that deer do to his crops here in Essex.
Bigger than rabbits, eat more. Rabbits are more efficient because they eat their own poo. I haven't seen a deer doing that. Fine in small numbers because we used to tolerate them, but since COVID, people weren't getting out as much or weren't doing as much or weren't eating in restaurants and all the things, so the number of deer has just built up to ridiculous numbers. The trouble is with deer, they eat a fair bit, but they trample through the rest and then they all go to sleep. And curling up in the crop is not the best of ideas, you know, absolutely, especially beans. We grow winter beans now, and they really are a pain because they love them.
They hang about the boundaries if they're being shot on the farm, and they may encroach a bit, and then they come a little bit far, and then you get a chance to get the numbers down, but they withdraw across the boundary, and they know where they're safe. They're not stupid. They string out along the boundary, and at any sight of movement, they're gone.
Robert and Nigel are trying out two top-of-the-range thermal spotters. There's the Falcon FQ50 Pro monocular and the binocular Raptor Pro RQ50L with a built-in rangefinder. Both units use a high-quality 640 by 512 sub-20 NETD sensor, giving lovely clear images. The Raptor has a dual system that combines thermal with a day-night optical sensor. Robert is quick to work out that could mean staying inside a warm truck on a cold autumn night.
You can be sitting there in the middle of winter after a fox or something and engine on, heater going, otherwise you freeze to death.
But you've only got that vision.
But with that, you can look all round through the glass. Yeah.
He's been trying out the Raptor on some of the farm wildlife. He even took it to a nature reserve and spotted ducks, water voles and reed buntings. What really matters is the results on deer, so we're heading out with Nigel to try and cull a young fallow buck.
Hare. Gone, but there's a hare. It's very clear on the outline of the trees now I've focused it.
As the light fades, Nigel finds he can not only spot deer way out across the fields, the image quality means he can assess their sex and age, so he can target the right animal to cull. He decides to wait up in one of his raised boxes in the hope a cull animal will step out of the woods before the legal deadline of 1 hour after sunset. Deer stalkers are rightly sensitive about the possibility of people using new thermal kit to shoot deer at night, which is illegal in England. Ignore the timestamp on the thermal. Nigel hasn't had a chance to set the spotter's clock to the right time.
Yeah, now I've got used to it. It's easy to use. Get your fingers in the right place with the button.
At this point, our camera can't cope with the fading light, so we switch to night vision mode. With only minutes to spare before Nigel has to pack up, these three step out of cover. The image quality means he can quickly identify the young buck in the group. He's shooting the same SUCO 243 that he uses for fox shooting. Even at last light, the night vision scope add-on allows him to place the perfect shot. The 100-grain bullet takes out the top of the heart. The buck makes a short dash, then collapses dead on the spot. Would he have had the same success without the aid of the HIK thermal? Maybe, maybe not, but it certainly made the job easier, meaning Nigel could positively identify the cull animal in virtual darkness.
I can remember we hardly had lamps, and the lamp came in, and that was a step forward. And then the scopes went to tube scopes, and then digital, and then thermal. And of course, thermal was a revolution. And now thermal is moving on to absolutely amazing pictures and so on now. Yes, it's pricey, but to anybody that's professional, anybody that's really interested in the subject, save the pennies up. It's a real game changer now. Again.
For more details on the HIKMicro Falcon and Raptor spotters, follow the link in the description below. And for all your stalking kit, check out kitfinder.co.uk. Thanks, Robert and Nigel. Now, we gave away Bog Death Grip shooting sticks priced at more than £200, kindly donated by Two Smoking Barrels Country Pursuits Gun Shop in Suffolk. Next week's prize draw is for a fleece gilet and a fleece jacket from Jack Pyke's Sherpa range, which is specially designed for shooting and fishing. Our weekly prize draw helps us to bring in new members to the Fieldsports Nation, which in turn helps us to raise money both to produce our news content and, for most of this year, to fight BBC TV's Chris Packham in court. Another fundraiser we have going for our legal costs is our auction. It is one of the most extraordinary guns to come to auction this year, and it is in a sale to raise money to beat off a court case. BBC TV's Chris Packham is suing UK hunting channel Fieldsports Channel, and we want to raise money to fight him. We have raised nearly £40,000 so far. We have £20,000 to go, so we can make our court appearance on the 6th of November 2023. Our auction finishes on Sunday the 8th of October. Click on the link below. Please go and have a look. Now, from witches to wazzocks, it's David on the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. The 2023 Firearms Bill is close to becoming law, and there are fears that it includes a ban on spent ammunition. It includes licensing conditions for home loading components, with some commentators saying that that means trouble for collectors of brass cases or those who have them as souvenirs or as decorative art. Basque says this is not the case, and there is nothing for ordinary shooters to worry about. The new rules only apply in cases where the police can prove that the owner of the empty cartridge has intent to use it in a crime.
This part of the Act is actually aimed at criminal armourers who would make their own ammunition to supply people for criminal use. It is not aimed at bona fide reloaders. The Act uses the word intends to manufacture ammunition illegally, and intent in law is very, very difficult to prove, and probably rightly so, and it's also very, very highly regulated.
Another new law on the statute books is the Hunting with Dogs Scotland Act 2023, which came into force on the 3rd of October 2023. This is the law that aims to ban trail hunting. Nature Scott has now published a series of forms and licensing guidance for hunts and shoots on its website. Links below. At the same time, the Scottish Government is bringing in new rules designed to increase deer slaughter. From the 21st of October 2023, the statutory close season for all males will be removed. From the 1st of November, if you have a night licence and are authorised to do so, you can use thermal imaging equipment and night vision to shoot deer, and the minimum bullet weight to shoot reds, sika and fallow is reduced from 100 grains to 80 grains.
Even the most basic appreciation of population dynamics should have equipped the working group with an appreciation that shooting males has almost no impact on the overall population of deer, and indeed the amendments may regrettably be even proved to be counterproductive. Added to this, the Scottish Government appear to have lumped all deer species into the same problem category, something that compounds my impression that, unfortunately, the legislation is largely ill-considered.
The Rural Reaction Party launched on Sunday alongside the start of the Conservative Party conference in Manchester. 250 supporters crammed into a room at the Edwardian Hotel to hear speeches from co-founder Ian Gregory, Hunting Kind's Ed Swales and e-collar campaigner Jamie Penrith. The group says politicians have lost the trust of rural voters and promises to make them sit up and listen to the countryside.
Policy has to be built on science. Those who will come round with us on that principle, those who feel there's too much bureaucracy, we'll work with them and we will together force the great ship of British politics to reconsider how it deals with the countryside.
The Welsh Government has launched a new survey that aims to shape the future of the Welsh countryside. It lists a number of activities, including one called trail hunting and recreational shooting. Its list of potential actions is similarly politicised, with leading questions about the importance of inclusiveness over the importance of local communities, and a clear desire to form an NRW club of Welsh residents. There's a link to it below. An airgun pellet magazine has led to a small business losing its online payment provider. Alistair Muir set up Farm Cottage Brands in 2011. It sells air guns and shotgun accessories, among other rural-themed items such as cufflinks, flasks, cards and mugs. Stripe dropped the business after it found a listing for a 10-round plastic magazine that holds lead airgun pellets. Stripe restricts payments for weapons, ammunition and related products. After DailyMail.com contacted Stripe on Muir's behalf, Farm Cottage Brands was told its account would be reinstated. The big conservation industry landowners are under pressure from their members to drop their woke policies. A report in the Times newspaper says that the National Trust in England is defending its campaigning on nature from the lobby group Restore, which is attempting to put its own people on the National Trust board. Meanwhile, another major landowner in trouble has seen a flurry of resignations from its board. Broadcaster and author Mary Ann O'Carter has resigned from the John Muir Trust, while its chief executive remains under investigation. She complains that the investigation has dragged on too long. At the same time, the Firefighters Union has criticised environmental policies championed by both landowners as the UK faces record numbers of wildfires. There were more than 44,000 wildfires in 2022, an increase of 72% on the previous year, according to government figures out this month. The National Trust and the John Muir Trust are committed to adding to the fuel load in uplands while refusing to undertake controlled burns to create fire breaks. Ireland has added 4 ducks to its banned list. Heritage Minister and Green Party TD Malcolm Noonan announces there's no longer an open season on scaup, goldeneye, pochard and pintail. Irish wildfowlers argue he's being over-restrictive and squandering an opportunity to put a proper management plan in place. Meanwhile, anti-shooting campaigners say he's not going far enough. It's only the second time in 30 years that Ireland has removed species from its open seasons. The Swedish Hunting Association has made a TV ad showing how hunters and gamekeepers look after the nation's wildlife. It shows a man coming into work looking exhausted. The reason, it turns out, he's been up all night tracking an animal involved in an RTA. The well-made advert is the work of Svenska Jägareförbundet, thanks to Per Holmseth for the link. And finally, bears like Mexican food. An Instagram user called Angela Chapa says she got to share a taco with a bear in Chipanique, which leapt onto a picnic table and ate her lunch. She adds, "I do not recommend the experience." You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David, who is, as you know, like a beautiful flower that blossoms in sunlight, and you can provide him that sunlight by clicking like below this film on YouTube. Next, Tom Davies shows off his rifle skills, filling up his truck with rabbits. You're about to see some good shooting by Tom Davies.
it does get exciting on the rabbits. It does. One thing I love about shooting rabbits is obviously you got the selling part of them, but it reminds you of your youth shooting rabbits. 100%. You know, it's great fun. Be a bit daunting sometimes when you're walking up hills just to try and get like 5 rabbits, because some areas don't really have them. But you know, when you get areas with good numbers, you can have brilliant nights out.
It's night time on Dartmoor. We started this outing in daylight. Back then, it was not such a success.
Well, we've gone to go out filming, and there's no SD cards in your cameras. So we've done a few trips to a few shops, spent half an hour or so trying to find some, but couldn't find any cards, so we're back to phones and a GoPro.
And the trouble is, you've got to get how many rabbits tomorrow?
I've got someone that needs 17 rabbits for a like a craft course, which they're collecting in the morning, and we've only got a day scope on us, and we've got about an hour and a half left on light.
Well, we better get going. What are you standing right here for? Come on.
Despite my cutting into his shooting time, Tom does well on the rabbits. The shooting is up to scratch. You'll have to forgive the footage. Tom just about makes his order for 17. We reconvene a few days later and Tom has a new rifle, a Blaser R8 in 17 HMR. He needs to zero his Pulsar Thermion 2 thermal scope to it.
This rifle hasn't had any shots for it, so we're about 50 yards from the target. It's a 17 HMR. I'll always try and bore sight it roughly and line it up with the scope for the first shot, so I roughly know where I am to adjust to make it easier and save bullets. We're not far off there, Charlie. The chamber's got like an insert in it to take the small rounds of the HMR so they go smoothly into the bore. Feels so weird because it's new, it's stiff. That my point is so right loose. Well, not loose, but like well used. Nice. Bang on centre. So I haven't got any thermal targets or anything, so I'm just using my steel guns because it's been warm today. The steel gongs are showing off some good heat. So with the crosshairs on the scope, I use the mil dots on the edge of the steel, and that gives me my point of aim, so I know if I'm centre or not on the steel, and that's how I zero it. This is when it all goes wrong. I'm going to set up my phone with the scope, hopefully. So there's a live feed, and I'm pretty sure you can record direct through this as well. Yeah. With these Pulsar Thermion scopes, you can zero the scope to 5 different profiles.
This is the rifle that shot those rapid rabbits in the opening clip, and neither it nor its operator lets up.
I supply restaurants, butchers and customers as well, you know, they buy them, so I tend to go out, shoot a few. For customers I'll freeze them down because sometimes people just order one, it's not worth my time, it's not cost effective to go out and just shoot one rabbit.
Tom accounts for all of the rabbits he shoots, loading them into the back of his truck. One of them is a rare miss, and not a clean miss. He stuns it, so he has to catch it and kill it. Less than an hour's work produces 2 dozen.
We've only been in 2 fields, we've had 20 rabbits. These rabbits haven't been shot at, they've been, so they were just staying in their little groups and picking a few off at a time sort of thing. So earlier on in the year on this farm I shot a fair few hundred actually, and I've rested it and they've come back. So I mean, we haven't even gone to like the hot spot as such. It's good.
A field like that makes it all worthwhile. Tom forgives me for the wasted outing. For more about Pulsar, go to thomasjacks.co.uk and you can find Tom on Instagram. Thanks, Tom. Next, rhinos are in the news as a group headed by Prince Harry acquires 2,000 farmed rhinos and says it plans to release them into the wild. Here's the story. John Hume's Platinum Rhino project produced 2,000 southern white rhinos on a ranch in South Africa, more than 10% of the world's population. To do that requires security systems that run into the many millions of dollars. This is the security hub at another smaller rhino ranch. Without this, the owner there says he will lose rhinos to poachers.
Fortunately, we can employ much different strategies than the national parks can, and because we can intensify our efforts, we had no incidences of poaching for the last 7 years.
US wildlife charity African Parks, which has Prince Harry as its president, has now acquired John Hume's rhinos and plans to release them in parks it manages across Africa. Stephen Palos from South Africa's Sustainable Use Coalition says this could be a recipe for disaster.
My opinion on this is that what they're doing is they're repeating what I consider to be an already proven failed experiment. And it is experimental. That herd of John's, over 2,000 animals now, was probably the most secure nucleus of rhinoceros, certainly the southern white rhinoceros and the black rhinoceros that exists. He's proven by the numbers of increment of his herd that it works. He put himself in a very safe place in South Africa. He spent a lot of money to relocate from his farm near the borders of South Africa in a really bushy and mountainous terrain, and brought that entire operation up to the central heartland of South Africa, to very flat terrain, far away from border risks and things like that. And he's just been increasing those rhino numbers, and I believe his own horn stockpile, for the decade or so he's been in the new location. Converse to that, if you look at the Kenyan model, on their watch, coincidentally also 1977, they put a total ban in any type of utilization in the form of hunting and of any wildlife. And they hung their hat completely on non-consumptive ecotourism, phototourism. And they've managed to bring the northern white rhino to the point that it is now functionally extinct. They've managed to see the rest of their wildlife and game populations also crash in that period of time. I have a lot of respect for African Parks. It's an organization that I think is well led and well premised on much of what they do, and obviously tremendously well supported by famously wealthy individuals. But the rhinoceros is a different thing. You start taking that herd of Johns and spreading it around various parts of Africa. He was spending, I understand, 1 million South African rand a month on security, which, divide that by roughly 22 to get it into pounds, it's a lot of money. If you start spreading that all over the place, and you have to start now securing them in pockets all over, the unit cost of the protection of those rhinos is going to go through the roof. But that's not the scary part. The only way you can do that in the current regime in most of Africa is by fortress conservation methods, which means you put fences between the animals and the population, and you arm and train people to become defenders, and you pay huge amounts of money to them for doing that. It's going to cost human life. That is an absolute fact. In countries like that, you can only defend those rhinos with a militia, and you will be up against a militia. So rhinos are going to die because some will slip through the cracks. People are going to die because it is going to be a war. Money is going to be wasted. I don't see the logic of that. It's the old saying about doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome.
African Park's website has lots of details about its planned release project. We asked African Parks for more on how it plans to stop the poachers. How much extra budget will it put into anti-poaching? And we asked African Parks to address the fear that the temptation of rhino horn could lead to human death, either of poachers or rangers or both. They did not send us a comment. Thanks all who took part in that. And we have a podcast about rhinos out this week too. You can click to watch it and listen it in the links below. Last year I visited a rhino operation similar to John Hume's in South Africa, where the rangers had found a baby rhino with its eyes pecked out by crows. They were able to save it. So a year later, how's it doing? Next we're off to Shooting Sports UK gun shop in Staffordshire for this week's Field Tester.
Now you've got a shop and a shooting ground, it makes sense to have lots and lots of different shotguns.
Yes, it does.
So
yeah.
these are pretty fresh, yeah?
Yeah. So there's a brand new model out from Webley and Scott. It's called the Webley and Scott Pro Comp. So they come at a very good price point actually. This one's around $13.50. That one's around $12.50. And as you can see with this one, there is absolutely masses of amounts of adjustability in that stock. You've got adjustment to slide the pad up and down, and you've got this counterbalance here as well, which is probably a good little feature. Definitely a new, fresh, modern look to shotgun shooting.
It's a cool looking thing.
It is. I mean, if you're going to buy a gun and you want full adjustability, then you know what more can you get? Full steel proof up to half choke. The trigger is also adjustable, so the blade will move forward and backwards. You know, the Webley and Scott have really thought a lot about this gun, and to hit the competition market at such a small price point, you know, it really is an entry into a competition gun. You know, they've also thought about the people who maybe want a more traditional full wooden stock as well. Glove grip again. The cheek's adjustable. You can also buy spacers for the butt as well. Again, multi-choke. So yeah, it's a pretty versatile gun for not a lot of money really.
Okay, and fresh through the door. So what price point are we talking about here?
So they're between $12.50 and $13.50, I believe.
What's sharing that sort of space?
There's not for this style of gun with a glove grip and all that sort of adjustability. To be honest with you, there's not a lot out there. There's so much which is sort of over the $2,000 mark with the features that this has. Well, even maybe 2.5 and above, really.
Okay, so they've thought about this quite hard, haven't they?
Oh yeah, they have, yeah.
If you're thinking of heading to Shooting Sports UK's shop, please can I suggest you go there this Friday evening, because we have another Field Sports Live coming up and Shooting Sports UK is hosting it. Field Sports Live, it's our stage show, bringing the story of Field Sports Channel to village halls and clubs all around the UK. It has chat, it has guests, it has a game show, it has music, and it even has acting. It's 90 minutes of fun for Field Sports Channel viewers. Click on the link below for tickets to the next one, or if you are a member of the Field Sports Nation, just let us know you're coming, because entry for you is free.
Well, it's somewhere between garbage and rotten apples, I think.
And a purebred Guernsey cow.
It's at Shooting Sports UK's shop at Oak Edge Shooting Ground near Stafford on Friday the 6th of October 2023, and there's a link to it below. Next, from entertainment to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, brought to you by James Marchington, it's Hunting YouTube.
This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. First up this week, here's a bit of gratuitous destruction from Kentucky Ballistics, who are shooting holes in what looks like a perfectly good car with a massive punt gun. Next to the Alaskan tundra, where the outdoor boys are on a 3-day camping trip, fishing for grayling, hunting ptarmigan, and foraging for edible plants and berries. Meanwhile, in Australia, it's wall-to-wall action with pest controller Edge of the Outback, using his custom 308 and Pulsar Thermion scope book to shoot pigs, feral cats and a fox. Talking of Pulsar, the company has just released this video to promote its Telos LRF XP50 thermal monocular. It's a high-quality production featuring deer manager Tom Davies in a refreshing move away from the typical product videos in this market. Peter Jones of County Deer Stalking introduces a new member of the team, and the pair take their HIKMicro thermals out to hunt a fallow buck, on the very spot where legend has it that St. George slew the dragon. After all that tech, here's something a bit more old school. In Colorado, Stick and String Adventures finally draws a moose tag after 22 years of trying, and chooses traditional archery gear of a longbow and cedar arrow. In a gripping encounter, he calls in a rutting bull to less than 10 yards. Meanwhile, Samong Outdoors is on his annual family squirrel camp in Oregon, stalking the greys in the woods with a 1.7 caliber rimfire and cooking what he shoots. Finally this week, Alex from Strictly Shooting catches up with professional falconer Jess Craven at the Yorkshire Shooting Show and busts a few myths about gamekeepers, shooters and birds of prey. That's it for this week. We've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the eye symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you'd like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email Charlie the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv.
Well, that's it for this week. If you haven't done so already, please whiz over to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv, where you can get to like us on Facebook and on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, pop your email address into our register page and we'll contact you about this show. Fieldsports Britain is at 7 p.m. UK time every Wednesday. And this has been Fieldsports Britain. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.